Hello and welcome back everyone, we Weeb Online, and today I'm gonna start a new series, What If Naruto Was Possessed by Evil Kurama, Part 1. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
Naruto. The boy in question jerked his head up from the desk and quickly wiped the drool off the corner of his mouth. If all you're going to do here is sleep, then why come at all? Sorry, Iruka-sensei. I'm just tired today. You say that every day. Maybe I'm always tired. Iruka decided not to pay attention to that last comment and kept talking about genjutsu. Some of the other kids made fun of the blonde boy. When Iruka said that Naruto did this every day, he wasn't joking. Naruto seemed to fall asleep in class more often. This time, Iruka's screams only woke him up for about 5 minutes. Naruto. When Naruto heard his name, he looked up. He was tired and asked, "What?" As he rubbed the sleep from his eyes, he took a look around. They were the only ones there. Naruto, who was still only half awake, asked, "Is it time for recess? No more school?" "Oh," Naruto said as he stood up and stretched. He then started to gather his things. "Do you want to talk about something?" "No." "Okay, but how do you think you're going to pass the exam tomorrow? I don't think you've been awake for more than 10 minutes at a time. Have you been practicing ninjutsu at home?" It looked like Naruto couldn't hear anything. "Goodbye, Iruka-sensei." He walked slowly out the door, dragging his bag behind him. Naruto thought that no one really cared. Iruka might like me, but no one else does. Really, I don't know why I go to school. I guess it's become a habit. People talk about wanting to kill themselves, but that would hurt. Maybe not as much as being alone hurts, but... Naruto opened the door to his run-down apartment when he got there. He never made the effort to lock it. Kids and sometimes even adults who hated him for reasons he couldn't understand had already stolen or destroyed anything of value he had. He stopped pulling jokes a year ago. It only got him into more trouble and made more people want to break into his apartment. "I'm not sure if I want to take my test tomorrow." "Baruka, right. Senseis, I haven't been listening. I guess it doesn't matter though. I've never been good at ninjutsu. No one will practice taijutsu with me. And I don't know anything about genjutsu." Naruto put his things by the door, shut it, and fell on the couch that the last person who lived there had left. Probably because it wouldn't have been worth it to take it to the dump. Naruto knew why he was so tired all the time. When you're sleeping, nothing hurts. There's no trouble. Before he hit the couch, he was already asleep. Naruto woke up. He didn't like waking up. He had to go back to the real world, where almost everyone he knew and a lot of people he didn't know really hated him. He took a quick look at the analog clock that was hanging off center on the wall. It's 8 o'clock. Since I'm already awake, I guess I might as well take the test. And even if I don't pass, which I probably won't, I can at least use up enough energy to get tired enough to sleep. Naruto got to school around 9 o'clock. He had eaten breakfast and walked there slowly so he could take his time. As the man took his picture, he looked at the camera. He was still. He walked into the room when it was his turn. He saw 3 men with clipboards, paper, and pencils sitting at a table at the far end of the rectangular room. He knew Iruka was in the middle, but he didn't know much about the other 2. All he knew was that they worked at the academy. "Stand there," said the one on the right, pointing about 10 feet in front of the table to a big X. Naruto did what was asked of him. "Now, I want you to use the replication technique to make at least 3 copies of yourself," the man said. "You will get a grade based on how much they look like you, how clear they are, and whether or not you make at least 3. You may move on when you are ready." Naruto shaped his chakra and made the seal. There were 2 of them. One was not see-through, but its face was not quite right. The second was pale white and so clear that you could barely see it. The 3 men made sad faces. The man on the right, who seemed to do all the talking, said, "I'm sorry. Try again next year." Naruto slowly left the room through the second door and went outside. He started walking toward his home. Naruto thought in a silly way, "I remember the guy on the right. He was the guy who moved to this town from another. So that's why he was so nice, because none of the other teachers could be as nice as Iruka, since they all grew up here. But why do all the grown-ups who grew up here hate me? Before I stopped pulling pranks, that guy moved here, but he doesn't hate me. Maybe something else I did, so what? Oh well, it doesn't matter." As he walked home, a man in an alley next to the road whispered, "Hey, kid, come here. I want to talk to you." Naruto gave the man a quick look. The man had white hair, was dressed like a chunin, and carried a huge shuriken on his back. He looked about as old as Iruka. Naruto didn't know where he had seen him before. What would be the point? "I know that your teachers are all hard on you and that no one will practice with you. Without anyone to help you, you haven't been able to get better. If you want, I'm willing to train you." Even though Naruto tried to hide it, he still had a little hope. He might not be like the other guys. He might have seen how they treated me and realized that I didn't do anything to deserve it. Maybe okay. The man gave a smile. Okay, my name is Mizuki and I know you're Naruto. Since you're behind, we're going to have to do some advanced training. I need you to get a scroll from this place for me. They won't give it to us if we ask, but if you can get it, I can use it to teach you more quickly. Mizuki quickly explained which scroll he needed and where to get it. Let's meet at the abandoned shack in the forest north of here at 9 o'clock tonight. Okay. Naruto nodded. Great. See you then, said Mizuki. He was happy with how his plan was going so far. The way the villagers treated the boy almost made this too easy. It was hard for Naruto to believe. Someone cares enough about me to want to teach me, and to do it when it could get him in trouble. As he sneaked into the building with guards, Naruto thought, I can't miss this chance. If he was good at anything, it was staying out of sight. He knew this because he had run away from people many times, either because of a joke he played or because he didn't know why everyone hated him. Got it. Now, all I have to do is meet Mizuki-sensei at the shack in, let's say, an hour. I think I'll go there and read for a while before he gets here. Naruto was sitting in the open space in front of the shack. He taught himself the shadow replication technique, which was surprisingly easy since he couldn't do the supposedly easier replication technique. But this next one was hard. As he kept reading the scroll, he thought to himself, this village needs better security. Even though I'm not a genin, I walked right in and took this scroll without any trouble. Oh well, I guess it worked out, so whatever. Hey, where did I put my glasses? When I was getting ready, I must have left them at home. Whatever. The Sandaime walked around the same building that Naruto thought should have better security. Every night before he went to bed, he walked here. It was nice to do. He came every night for a walk. Every night, he went around and counted all 43 scrolls that were hung on the walls. 23, 24. This place was quiet. No one guarded this building because doing so might have made people wonder about the common scrolls they said it held. This way, no one would know about the Forbidden Techniques scroll, scroll 37, which he remembered. 31, 32. No one would bother to steal a scroll with things that could be found almost anywhere, and only he and a few other people knew where it was. 36, 37. The Sandaime went still. The scroll had disappeared. He ran to the nearest door to call for help. On the way, he saw a pair of goggles lying by the door. Why would you do this, Naruto? How did you know it was that one? Or did you? You have to find Naruto and bring the scroll to me right away. Yes, Hokage-sama. All the ninjas shouted at once, and then they all ran off in different directions. Naruto turned his head in the direction of the sound of bushes moving. Mizuki was about 20 feet away from him. The right time. What up, Naruto? Mizuki-sensei, give me that scroll to look at. Naruto got up to give it to him, but then he heard a different voice. Naruto, don't give it to him. Iruka jumped into the clearing and landed in the middle of Naruto and Mizuki. Naruto managed to say, what? Why? Was Iruka among those who wanted to stop him? Mizuki just used you to get that scroll, which is the scroll of forbidden techniques. But I'm Mizuki. Mizuki's face turned into an evil grin. Yes, how could anyone like you? Did you really think I was going to train you? I hate you, and so does everyone else in the village, even your beloved Iruka-sensei. Iruka was about to say that this wasn't true, but Mizuki said, I bet no one told you because it would be against the law, which was made when you were born. What law? I've never heard of one. Of course not. The law says that no one can tell you about the law, and no one can tell you that the Kyubi no Kitsune is sealed in you. That's why everyone hates you. The Kyubi killed over half of the village's people. Everyone lost at least one family member. Iruka lost both of his parents, and everyone can see the proof of the Kyubi's presence in you every time they see the whisker marks on your cheeks. Iruka said, you can't get away with that scroll. What? You're going to stop me? Huh? I'll take care of the demon brat, then I'll take care of you. With that, Mizuki threw one of his shuriken right at Naruto, who had moved out from behind Iruka to hear Mizuki better. Naruto knew there was no way to avoid it. He was too shocked by what he had just heard to be able to move so quickly in response to an attack. He shut his eyes and got ready for the pain that would end all his pain, the sound. Naruto looked around. Iruka was standing in front of him with a sad look on his face. Iruka turned around to face Mizuki, but he looked like he could barely stand. Naruto then understood why. Iruka's back was where the giant shuriken was stuck. Iruka gasped, don't listen to him, Naruto. I don't hate you. You didn't do anything wrong. Now go. Get away before. Mizuki bragged. Before what? Before I kill you all. You just gave up any chance you had of beating me. That scroll is just as good as mine now. Mizuki threw his second giant shuriken at them. As it sped toward Iruka and him, Naruto could only watch. But Iruka turned around and shoved Naruto away, only for the shuriken to cut off his head. Naruto looked at the person who used to be his teacher. Iruka had been killed. He was only ever cared about by one person. He was never heard by anyone else. He was filled with anger. He killed Iruka-sensei. To be honest, Naruto, I'm in a giving mood today. If you give me that scroll, I'll let you live, and then I'll go. Naruto yelled, "You'll be on your way. All right to hell." He took the shuriken that Iruka had used to kill himself. He killed Iruka-sensei. Mass shadow replication. 100 copies of Mizuki came out of nowhere and surrounded her. They each had a shuriken. Mizuki screamed in fear, "This is your last chance." She was hoping against hope that the boy would give up. The Narutos laughed like they were crazy. Mizuki was shocked as she saw each clone pull out its shuriken. "Time to die, Mizuki-sensei." Mizuki saw only shuriken. Then he couldn't see anything. The ninja went back to the Sandaime to report what they had found. All except Iruka. Who is Iruka? Didn't he go north into the forest to check? Go look for him. 5 ninjas ran quickly toward the forest. What the 5 ninjas saw shocked them. A headless Iruka. If the severed hand was any indication, the bloody pile of shuriken was covering the remains of a body. And there was Naruto, lying on the ground with a blank look in his eyes and mumbling something to himself under his breath. The ninjas walked up to the child, not sure if he had done all of this or not. Naruto stood up. One of the ninjas would later swear that the boy's eyes were empty holes that sucked the energy out of the air around him. The leader of the ninjas motioned for Naruto to join them. They thought he was a puppet because of how stiff and mechanical he was. They could hear what Naruto was saying when he was close enough. He killed Iruka-sensei. He killed Iruka-sensei. He killed Iruka-sensei. He killed Iruka-sensei. The Sandaime was ready to give Naruto a harsh lecture, but when he saw Naruto, he just couldn't do it. Once Naruto had calmed down, he told what had happened. Even though most of the ninja in the room were used to hating Naruto, they could see that he was in pain every day. They felt he had earned it. Sarutobi decided that there was no need for punishment, and even though many nin did not agree, no one dared to go against the Hokage. Naruto went home and fell asleep on his bed when he got there. Naruto thought, "No one cares about me." Iruka was the only person who ever did anything kind. But now he's gone. I put my trust in Mizuki, but he used me to help himself. Doesn't matter. Naruto fell into a dark place that was even darker than sleep. Even though it was a surprise, he would take it any way it came. It was like someone who was running everything from the Hokage's desk got up and left. There was no one in charge. Could that be true? Could he get out of his cursed prison for a moment? He took over and opened the eyes, which were now his own eyes. He looked up and saw the ceiling of Naruto's room. He gave the nightstand a quick look. He had the upper hand. The spoiled kid was gone, at least for the time being. He had no way of missing out on this chance. At last, Kyubi thought. Kyubi tested Naruto's legs. His legs. They went. He did what the hands. He could also move them. He sat down and fell down right away. People make it look so simple. He got on his hands and knees and crawled. He got to his feet slowly. He got up. It takes more thought than it should to do this. I'll have to get used to it, I guess. Now let's walk. Kyubi walked to the far end and back of the small room. Once he figured it out, he put clothes on the floor to make it look more real. After he got good at this, he practiced jumping, which was much harder than he thought at first. When the sun came up, he was practicing running through the halls that were full of clothes, balls, and other things. That took forever. What do I need to do now? I could destroy the rest of Konoha, but I should first try to use my powers in this body. I'm going to go to one of the farthest training areas to see what I can do with this body. So, Kyubi laughed and took a step toward the door. Mwahaha, Kyubi stopped dead in his tracks. My voice. I don't sound at all like Naruto. I sound like Doom's voice. Like me, I could just run to the training area, but if someone saw me and I couldn't use my power, I'd be in trouble. Drat. Kyubi wanted to improve his voice, so he checked to see if he was moving his mouth wrong. He went to the bathroom and turned on the light. When he saw another problem, he turned the light back off. He looks. His blood-red eyes were cut in half. Well, that doesn't look like anything fishy. How can I take care of my eyes? Jinjutsu. Kyubi would have paid attention to classes even if Naruto hadn't, because he had nothing else to do. Not that he cared or anything. So, I think about what I want to hide and shape the chakra. He shaped his chakra and his vision turned blue. Now, his eyes were purple. I'll have to get better at that. Wait. I used the chakra of Naruto. I have no idea how I did that. Well, since I'm using his body, I guess I have to work on hand seals, human techniques, Naruto's voice, and getting my eyes straight. What's this feeling I have in my stomach? Stupid people and their need to eat. And how much water they need. And restrooms. The powerful Kyubi was sitting on the toilet. I hate people. A few hours later, Kyubi had gotten better at using seals than Naruto had. Did he try it all? He had practiced a few ways to use Naruto's chakra to make sure he could do it well. He had softened his voice enough to make it sound like he had gotten a cold and turned into a teenager overnight. The voice still needs some work, but it's good enough for now right now. His eyes were just a little bit darker than Naruto's, but if a skilled person looked at them, they would be able to tell there was a genjutsu even though they couldn't see my eyes. But I need to see how strong I am. I can't do this with only the weak power of a person. He heard a knock on the door all of a sudden. His first thought was to shoot a huge fireball at it, but then he remembered that he didn't want to show off his power without seeing how it affected this weak human body. Kyubi went to his house and opened the door. The Sandaime said, "Hello, Naruto. I know you are probably still sad about Iruka," said who? "Oh, the kid's teacher. But I wanted to let you know that I think you're skilled enough to be a genin now that you've mastered shadow replication. I'd like to give you your forehead protector." Thank you." The Sandaime turned and walked away. "You need to come to a meeting in 2 days, where the graduates will be put into teams. It will be in classroom 100C. Good luck. I really need to get this problem with my voice fixed. But first, to see how strong I am. If I can use all of my power, I won't have to worry about being like Naruto." Kyubi walked toward the training grounds as he thought about this. It looks like he's going to train. That's not like him at all, but it's good for us. We'll get rid of that demon brat for good. 15 villagers quietly followed what they thought was Naruto. Kyubi got to the place where he trains. What should I use as a goal now? Why are so many people from the village coming this way? They're following me so they can bother Naruto. They will be good practice for hitting a target. Kyubi called his own chakra to him. He was surprised by how easily it came out of the seal. Even though calling it out broke the genjutsu on his eyes, he'd have to take care of it later. He broke the seal with his chakra. He thought the Yondaime was careful, but it wasn't. We have you now, demon boy. You can't, oh my gosh. After his throat was ripped out, the man couldn't go on. Time to die, little humans. And wahahaha, I liked killing again. He hadn't killed anyone in years, so even these weak villagers were fun to watch. But my chakra was making Naruto's get worse my body. Even though I got a boost to my ability to heal, it wasn't enough to make up for it. At this rate, I won't even be able to use a quarter of my full power before I die in minutes. There must be a way to heal faster, protect this body, or control my chakra outside of the body so it doesn't hurt the body in the first place. I can only use it in small amounts until I figure out how to get around it. And I think I'll have to replace this genjutsu every time I use my chakra for something other than healing this body. That will be a problem. Kyubi went back to Naruto's house after he found out what he needed to know. Even so, I need to work on this voice. Kyubi was able to change his voice, but he soon realized that he couldn't hide his true identity if he used his demonic chakra outside of Naruto's body. He found that he didn't need to sleep because his body's ability to heal itself was enough to make up for the effects of not getting enough sleep. Except for the bags under her eyes, which didn't matter much. Kyubi walked into classroom 100C. It looked like no one saw him. They were talking with each other. No one looked at him, but he could hear a few people talking about how Naruto could have passed the test. Kyubi was glad that Naruto had never been famous, because now no one should be able to tell the difference. He was a little bit curious about what happened to the kit. He could feel something in the back of his mind, but no matter what he did, it didn't respond. Maybe that was for the best. A few minutes later, the Chunin who had been in charge of the test walked into the room. He put his coffee on the desk but held onto the clipboard, which Kyubi thought was the list of teams. "Everyone, be quiet. I'm going to put you on teams," and the Chunin stopped when 2 more boys walked in. The fat one was holding a bag of potato chips. The other guy's hair was pulled back into a ponytail. They went to the back of the room and sat down. The boy with the ponytail seemed to fall asleep right away. "It's nice of you, Shikamaru and Chaoji, to join us. As I was saying, you will leave with your team leaders as soon as I divide you into teams. Team 1. Kyubi didn't pay attention to the teacher. Until he heard Naruto's name, he would wait. There was no reason to find out which team these stupid people were on. I'll have to use Naruto's skills until I figure out how to use most or all of my power. I can only fight for a few minutes with only a quarter of my power. But if I can make this body fast enough, a quarter could be enough. But still, Team 7, Uzumaki Naruto, Haruno Sakura, and Uchiha Sasuke. The pink-haired girl on one side of the black-haired boy jumped up and squealed with joy, while the blonde girl on the other side wailed in pain. How weird. Your Jounin leader will be Hade Kakashi. That's the end of the list. Is there anyone I missed? Good, you can leave with your instructors whenever they arrive. Everyone stood up and started to go. Besides Team 7, everyone else, the genin with pink hair, who Kyubi thought was Haruno Sakura, started to whine. Where is Kakashi-sensei? He better not be late. But I guess I'll be alone with us. She looked at the scowling boy with raven hair and blushed furiously. Kyubi was going to ask if he wasn't a person, but he changed his mind. The less I talk, the less likely it is that people will notice me. If we have to wait here, I guess I can let this body rest since I can't really train here. Sasuke saw Naruto fall asleep on the table. What a dope. I don't know how he stayed awake for the team divisions, but I knew it couldn't last long. He laughed. Fine with me. I don't need his help. We'll do fine as long as he stays out of the way. But how did he pass? I heard that he failed the exam. Whatever, I don't care. Hey, Sasuke, maybe we could eat lunch together after we meet the teacher. No, but we're going to be on the same team, so we need to get to know each other, Sakura said with a sad face. Then meet Naruto for lunch. Don't be so stupid. I'd just as soon eat with a rock. Then use a rock to eat. Why are you being so rude? Sakura turned around so that Sasuke wouldn't see that tears were starting to form in her eyes. After 2 hours, the door to their left opened, and a white-haired Jounin walked in calmly with his hands in his pockets. His left eye was covered by a sagging forehead protector, and the rest of his face, from the bridge of his nose down, was hidden by a mask. Sorry, guys, I'm late. On the way here, I got lost. What a pathetic excuse. You live here. Have you no shame? Kyubi woke up and Sasuke was pulled out of his thoughts by Sakura's outburst. I take it that you are Kakashi-sensei, Sasuke stated. Yes, I am. I'll see you on the roof. When everyone got there, Kakashi vanished in a cloud of smoke and leaves. What do we have to wait for? Let's go. Sakura ran outside. Kyubi and Sasuke followed slowly. Sasuke thought that this was a bad sign. Kakashi watched as the girl with the pink hair jumped up to the roof quickly, followed by the 2 boys who were obviously taking their time. If they plan to be that lazy during the bell exercise, they are in for a surprise. Sakura sat down right in front of him, smiling. Sasuke walked over and sat to her right, scowling at some thought. Naruto sat behind and to the left of Sakura, staring at the roof. Kakashi didn't tell anyone what he was thinking. Okay, everyone, I teach you how to do Jounin. Let's take turns telling each other our names, what we like, what we do for fun, what our dreams are, and similar things. Why don't you show us what you mean first, sensei? Asked Sakura, wanting to know more about their strangely dressed sensei. Sasuke was glad she asked, because he wanted to know about Kakashi too, but didn't want to ask. Of course, he didn't thank Sakura. Gratitude was for weaklings, and he couldn't be weak. He was an avenger. Kyubi just sat there and kept staring at the roof. Kyubi thought, if I looked up, this human would see the Jinjutsu on my eyes. Maybe he'll think Naruto is just sad or something, and I won't have to look at him. Very well. My name, as you probably know, is Hadake Kakashi. I like to do there are some things I like. I have different dreams, yeah. You go next, Sakura. Sakura whispered to her teammates. All we really learned was his name, but they didn't pay attention. A little annoyed, Sakura said out loud, my name is Haruno Sakura. She looked at Sasuke and blushed. What I like to do is talk with my friends and pick flowers. My dream is to be a great ninja and marry a nice guy. And she looked at Sasuke again and blushed. Sasuke, you go next, Kakashi said in a bored voice. My name is Uchiha Sasuke. I like being respected and strong. My hobby is to work out. My dream to kill a particular man. Naruto, you're up, thought Kakashi. That's what I thought. Kyubi kept digging deeper and deeper into the roof tile in front of him. He couldn't risk looking up. I can't believe I almost told them my real name, Uzumaki Naruto. That would be an embarrassing way for them to find out I like ramen. I should have paid more attention to the kit before. It sounded like a question. My hobby is sleeping. I guess my dream I dunno. And to think that this is the same kid who used to talk about becoming Hokage. I didn't know the villagers were so mean. Or maybe Iruka's death was hard on him, but I can't be nice to him just because of that. Good. Tomorrow at 6 a.m. we'll meet at Training Area 7. Eat nothing for breakfast. Why? Asked Sakura. Because you'd get sick. In a puff of smoke, Kakashi was gone. So, Sasuke, would you like to join me for lunch? No. Why? I'm busy. Oh. Sasuke walked to the edge of the roof and jumped off. He then walked back to his house with Sakura right behind him. Sasuke, can I walk with you for a little while? Whatever. Inner Sakura talked about true love and other things while Sakura smiled. Kyubi waited until they were out of sight. Once he was sure they were gone, he ran to what he now called his training area. He needed to get faster to make up for his lack of strength. And he touched the tree at the far east end of the training area and started sprinting back to the west end. The sun was just starting to come out from behind the horizon, casting a long shadow in front of him. As he ran, he jumped onto or over the rocks and logs he came across. His muscles should have been burning after sprinting for an hour without stopping except to change directions, but his fast rate of recovery let him keep going. Kyubi thought, there must be a better way to move faster. I'll have to stop soon. This body is running out of energy. It's good that I feed it more than just ramen. Those rabbits were good, but this is taking too long. I won't be able to hide my presence forever. The only safe way I can see to use my power is through ninja means, which I need to learn from ninja, which means I need to stay here and do. Kyubi then heard a voice. I will do 500 push-ups if I can't finish all 500 laps around Konoha. Kyubi went to see who was so excited. He stopped at the edge of the forest and saw an older man and a boy he recognized as one of the graduates from last year. They were both wearing what looked like green leotards. Kyubi rolled his eyes. 500 laps. They are either crazy or very serious about training. Can you tell how lifting weights has changed your workouts, Lee? You have the fire of youth burning brightly in you. Of course you have. And when we raise them for the third time, I'll show you a really cool trick. Thank you, Guy-sensei. What is this method you talk about? I have to know. I'll tell you when they ran out of Kyubi's sight. Weights. That's it. If I train with weights, I can get better faster. But what could I use as weights? Kyubi thought about different things he could do for weights while he looked for food. Kyubi got back to Naruto's house just before sunset. He knew that even if he didn't sleep, his body needed at least short periods of rest. He watched the sun slowly sink below the horizon. In the end, Kyubi thought the only way he could find something small and heavy enough to use was to buy weights made for training. But Naruto was poor, so he couldn't afford to buy them. And I need better clothes than this fluorescent orange outfit. And I don't want to ask for things because I can't risk getting caught. Kyubi wore the only dark clothes Naruto had ever owned. Navy sweatpants and a black t-shirt. He used a ninjutsu made for hiding in the dark. It was the third and last technique Naruto had learned from the Forbidden Scroll. Even though it was made for hiding, it would hide him for his nighttime raid. Kyubi's face broke into a smile. He made a seal and used the shadow replication technique to make 5 copies of himself. He then used the light absorption technique on each copy and explained his plan. The copies nodded and jumped out the window, and Kyubi did the same. He could hear the clones running to their targets, but he couldn't see them. As long as they stayed away from lights, they would be invisible, or nearly so. Kyubi ran to his own target, which would be harder to rob than any of the clones. They were going to rob a grocery store, 2 convenience stores, and 2 clothing stores. He was going to rob a jeweler. He landed on the ground beside a toy store. On the other side of the store was the jeweler's. He couldn't risk making too much noise by jumping around over there. He snuck around back and saw 2 Chunin standing guard at the back door. Of course they would have ninja guarding it. This is a ninja village. I thought my only problem would be patrolling ninja, but what can I do now? Is there anyone guarding the front door? Kyubi slunk back around the toy store and peeked around the front corner. A single Chunin stood under a street light. That won't work. I can't get caught in any light. Guess I'll have to work around the 2 in the back. Kyubi crept back around the toy store. He heard the Chunin talking in low voices. He couldn't fight them. Without any of his powers, he'd be outmatched in seconds. With the fraction of his powers he had available, he would glow and be recognized. Besides, a fight of any length would almost certainly be loud, and the Chunin could call for backup. If he could get them away for just a minute or 2, he might be able to pick the lock on the back door or something. But how could he get them to move? They weren't Chunin for nothing. Kyubi thought for a moment. Then, he had an idea. Kyubi was patient as he waited for the clones to move into place. Once the Chunin left, he wouldn't have much time to get the money before the clones were sent out. He looked into the pocket on his front. Good. I'm carrying the cloth bag and navy with me. There is no way to know how much money is in a jewelry store, and at any time. I can't believe I had to stand guard here twice this week, Toru. I have things to do during the day. You know the Chunin sighed as he continued to lean against the wall. Oh, well, at least we can talk to each other, Ichigo. That guy up front must be bored out of his mind, said the second Chunin. It's not like anything else I've ever done, but it's easy money. He was stopped by a clang that could only have come from 2 kunai hitting each other in the air. He and his partner ran out into the street to see what was making all the noise. They saw 4 Konoha Chunins fighting hard against 6 enemies who didn't seem to be wearing forehead protectors. It looked like none of the nin could hit each other. The store's guard came around the corner from the front of the store. He turned to look at the other two. All three of them nodded at the same time and joined the fight. Kyubi tried to open the door in the back. Locked. How on earth could he open the door without being heard? Because they couldn't hit each other, his clones didn't make much noise. He saw it then. Fire code said that all exit doors had to open outward, so the hinges had to be on the outside. He put the tip of his kunai under the bolt of the hinge and tried to use it as a lever to push the bolt up. The bolt moved up about an inch right before Kyubi gave up. Kyubi took out the bolt and did the same thing with the other two hinges. When the door started to fall backwards, he caught it and set it down gently. After all of this trouble, the last thing he needed was for the heavy metal door to give him away. He broke into the store. Toru threw a kunai at an enemy ninja, but he was able to avoid it easily. It seemed like the only thing kunai were good for now was to distract good ninja or hurt bad ones. After that, he did two more. He saw a guard throw a kunai at the same ninja from the front. If all goes well, no one would notice. But they didn't have any luck. A second enemy nin used his own kunai to block the third one. The Toru thought as he dodged a spray of kunai that this might take longer than he had hoped. Kyubi looked for the safe for a lot longer than he thought was smart, but he finally found it. Behind the counter, it looked like a garbage can. When he saw that it was a cheap one with a plastic combination wheel, he punched through the wheel and took as much money as he could. He put what he could in his pockets and put the rest in the bag he had brought. If things got really bad, he could just leave the bag and still get away with a lot of money. Even more so when he saw the large amounts of money on the bills. Of course, this was a jewelry store. When he was done, he put the safe back where it had been with care. If he was careful and the clones lasted long enough, he could also change the door, and no one would find out about his theft until a long time later. Kyubi ran to the back door in a hurry. He should have looked at the place before, but he didn't think to. He was a demon and should have just destroyed the village instead of sneaking around at night to get food. He took the door in his hands and put it back into its frame. Now was the hard part. How to put the bolts back in without making a lot of noise. Ichigo saw that the enemy nin didn't have any head guards on their heads. They were probably on a mission to stay hidden when these other chunin saw them. I don't know any of the chunin, which is strange, but there are a lot of us. Even though his enemies seemed to work well as a team, they couldn't do much against the Konoha ninja except dodge kunai and dance away. After the guards stepped in, they hardly made a single attack. Ichigo saw that the nin seemed to be scared of getting hit for no reason. He saw that the other Konoha chunin had left many openings that the anonymous ninja could have taken advantage of by taking a punch or two. However, the anonymous ninja refused to do anything that would have put them in danger. How cowardly. But maybe it's a trick to make us tired. Maybe they have a lot of strength. But even if the fight is quiet, someone will surely hear about it and show up. When a Konoha jounin showed up, it proved that what he thought was true. Ichigo knew who he was, but couldn't put a name to him. The enemy jounin didn't see the jounin until he suddenly jumped out of the shadow of a nearby building and threw 3 kunai at them. 2 of the nin were quick enough to avoid the kunai, but the third was just a little bit slower and got hit on the arm. Even though this shouldn't have been a big deal, Ichigo was surprised when the nin disappeared in a puff of smoke. He looked at where the nin had been standing. There were tracks, no doubt about it. A bunchin couldn't leave behind tracks, unless it was a more complicated one. He realized with a start that a bunchin of that level would have to be at least jounin level. As soon as the clone died, the other 5 nin attacked. But it was strange that they jumped over the unknown Konoha chunin to attack the guards and the jounin. 2 people went after the jounin, but only 1 person went after each chunin. They threw their kunai at them while they were in the air and got ready to fight hand to hand. The jounin hit his attackers with 2 well-aimed kunai and avoided the kunai that was thrown at him. Since they were in the air, they couldn't avoid the kunai that was aimed at the middle of their bodies. The kunai went all the way through their bodies. Then, with a quick puff of smoke, the nin was gone. The jounin gave a grin. Just what I expected. The jounin was sure that the other 7 chunin would take care of the last 3 attackers, so he listened for the real one. It was clear that the clones were a distraction for something else in the area. Then he had a strange feeling. A genjutsu. The jewelry store has it. No, just behind it. The jounin started running in that direction, but after a few steps, he stopped. What does this all mean? He yelled. Kyubi had no idea how to put the bolts back in place. He just couldn't get them to fit. Suddenly, he heard the poof sound that clones make when they die. He had to move quickly. He had to think fast, so he decided to just push the bolts in as far as he could and hope no one noticed. 2 more poofs came quickly after the first 2. Phew, so there must have been another ninja. The second bolt was jammed into the hinge. He heard someone shout, "What does this mean?" He realized that his fake Konoha nin must have gotten in the way of an older ninja. The voice didn't sound like a chunin he had heard before. Most likely, a jounin owned it. but he had told the clones very clearly not to help unless Kyuso. I've been discovered. That guy is definitely a jounin. Why is this happening to me? Kyubi chose not to think about the obvious reason why he had broken into a jewelry store. The jounin was angry and confused. These chunin were in his way and were staring at him while the other chunin fought. They were definitely clones. And why did these chunin get passed on by the clones to they are also clones? The Konoha chunin took out their kunai, which the jounin saw. Will I have to fight against all 4 of them? 3 clones were hit by 3 kunai that came from the right. The real chunin was done with the clones because 1 hit was all it took to get rid of them. So, there was only 1 lonely clone left. He threw his last kunai and crouched down to get ready for the inevitable attack. The jounin dodged the kunai, which wasn't aimed well, and then attacked. He did a roundhouse kick by swinging his leg. Even if the clone tried to block it, it would still go away. To the jounin's surprise and dismay, the person who made the clone must have been flexible, because the clone bent almost all the way backwards, picked up a kunai behind him, and stabbed it deep into the back of the jounin's thigh. The jounin grunted in pain, but then he gave the last clone a quick punch that got rid of it. The jounin quickly walked up to the chunin, who looked tired and had a few small cuts, but didn't seem too hurt, and hit each of them hard in the chests. Good, they aren't all the same. You, chunin, stay here and keep an eye out for any other dangers, he told him. And then he ran as fast as his injury would let him to the back of the store. Kyubi put the last bolt in the hinge halfway. That's going to have to do. I have to leave right away. 3 poofs were heard. Do that right away. Kyubi ran down the alley behind the building. He had to move quickly and quietly, so he went through the alley behind all the shops. But someone from the fight could see him if they looked back here. He heard one last poof, and then he heard someone running after him with a slight limp. As he turned the corner, he looked back. His pursuer was dressed differently than the chunin he had seen, so he knew it must be the dead ninja, who he thought was a jounin. Kyuso, now I'll have to lose him in the village or the woods. But how did he know I was there? Kyubi stopped and thought for a moment as he ran toward the forest's edge. The jinjutsu. Of course, I used ninjutsu to hide, but I forgot to get rid of the jinjutsu I already had. Kyubi turned off the jinjutsu quickly and jumped onto a roof, then into the forest. The jounin ran as fast as he could without hurting his leg anymore. He could run, but it hurt to do so because of the kunai in his hamstrings. He knew that running with it in would make the injury worse, but he also knew that running after taking it out would make him bleed to death. So he could run about 75% as fast as he usually does. It wasn't fast enough to catch the ninja, but it was enough to keep him from getting away. Soon, he realized that it was very hard to see the ninja and that the jinjutsu that had told him about the ninja's presence seemed to have been taken away. The nin's hair was black, his clothes were dark, and it looked like he had black paint or dye on every bit of skin that was visible. It must be paint or dye or something, because there are no black people in Naruto. How weird. Even though his training as a jounin let him see the nin anyway, he was frustrated by how hard it was. The nin ran into the forest in front of him. He pulled out a stick and set off a flare to let people know where he was and that he needed help. Then he went into the forest with the mysterious ninja. When he turned around and saw a flash of light behind him, Kyubi was surprised. He took a look back. A flare. Nothing seems to be going right today. He would have to get rid of the jounin before more help arrived. Even though he was faster now, he knew that the injured jounin was the only reason he couldn't catch up. If I can make more than 1 copy of myself, I might be able to get away. Yeah, no, because of the jinjutsu, he caught me. I need to use it while I'm in the village. Kyuso, to keep this a secret, I'll have to kill a jounin. Kyubi made 4 copies of himself while hiding behind a tree. He then used the light absorption technique on them to make them look like him. He jumped up into the higher branches and sent 3 of the clones to attack while keeping the 4th one behind to act as a distraction. He couldn't keep doing this for much longer because Naruto's chakra was almost gone. He couldn't use his own chakra because that would have let every skilled ninja know about his demonic chakra. Then he couldn't say it in front of anyone else ever again. Or, even worse, they might remember that Naruto had a demon sealed inside of him. They already didn't like him very much. As his clones attacked, he crouched on the branch. At this rate, the jounin thought, I'll never catch up. He kept up with the nin, but every time he jumped from one tree to the next, the kunai cut into his leg a little more. Already, he had to favor his right leg, which was bleeding around the kunai and making it hard for him to walk. He probably should have set off the flare and tried to get first aid for his leg, but he couldn't let such a potentially dangerous enemy leave without a fight. Behind a tree, he saw the nin duck. Was the nin so stupid as to think he, a jounin, wouldn't notice? 3 figures that he thought were copies jumped out and pulled out their kunai. It seems not. The jounin noticed that there was some movement behind the tree. The nin didn't want to put himself in danger, or he might have been waiting to attack in a sneaky way. He threw 3 kunai at each clone. They were easy to avoid, and they kept coming. The clones jumped at him, then each threw 2 kunai and pulled out a third. They held these in a way that the Jounin knew meant close combat. He dodged 5 of the kunai, but the 6th one stuck out of the bicep of his right arm, making it impossible for him to get it. Now I can't use my good arm, and I'll be stuck in a small space. He pulled out 2 kunai and used them to block 2 wild swings from 2 clones. He also moved his head enough to avoid getting stabbed in the face. He pretended to attack with his hands by spinning around and then throwing his kunai at 2 clones. One ducked, but the other just poofed away. The rank of Jounin wasn't given to me for nothing. He saw the real nin come out from behind the tree and start throwing kunai. These were easy to avoid, but it was getting harder as the 2 remaining clones kept attacking and his arm and leg kept bleeding. He threw 1 kunai at the real nin and then jumped backwards to avoid the fierce attack from the 2 clones. Even if the kunai didn't hit the nin, it would keep him from throwing kunai for a few seconds. He sat on a high branch and started the seals for the grand fireball technique. Not only will it get rid of the clones if they move too slowly, but it will also let anyone who can help know where I am. He moved his hand to his mouth when he got to the last seal. He took a deep breath and could feel the chakra building up in his lungs. He died then. The Jounin's kunai was stuck in the back of his head, but Kyubi pulled it out. The body fell 40 feet to the ground. The Jounin was so focused on avoiding the clones and the thrown kunai that he didn't consider the possibility that the real nin could also have been a clone. Oh no, I have to hide the dead person. Where though? Kyubi took a moment to think. He wasn't able to bury it. That would take too much time, and it could be found out. Maybe I could disguise it to look like something else. Mizuki's body. They never got rid of it because they didn't want to sully our honor by burying it. I can cut up the body and hide it with what's left of Mizuki. The 2 fighting clones picked up Mizuki's body and ran with Naruto to where she would be laid to rest. The 3rd clone stayed a good distance behind to make sure they weren't being followed. Sorry, Hokage-sama, but that's all we could find out. The Sandame heaved a sigh. Early this morning, he was getting calls from all kinds of small stores about thefts. Then there was the robbery of the jewelry store, which left 3 Chunin with minor injuries and a Jounin who was nowhere to be found. The ANBU was able to figure out where the flare had been set off, so they rushed into the forest and followed the blood trail to a place where the trees showed signs of a fight. No one knew who won or what happened, but the Jounin hadn't come back, and the amount of blood they found on the trail showed that even if he had won, he probably would have died. But no body was there. They had followed a smaller blood trail that led to Mizuki's body, where they found wild dogs eating. They thought that the mysterious jewel thief had won and that the Jounin's body parts were being eaten by the dogs. They thought that the wild dogs brought the body to Mizuki's body, since that was now where the pack seemed to live. Watch out for any more attempts. I want double guards for the next 2 weeks at their assigned places and 5 more Jounins to patrol the streets. If there is any sign of trouble, use a flare right away. We don't want to lose another ninja because he or she thinks they can handle it alone. Does everyone understand? The ninja in the room gave a small nod. Good, and if you find any evidence about any of the thefts from last night, bring it to my attention right away. It could have been a coordinated strike, and the only trouble at the jeweler's was because of the guards. You may leave. The ninja left the room in a line. Kyubi knew that the villagers didn't like Naruto, but he thought that when he tried to buy something, they would at least take his money. Naruto must have been lucky that someone else paid for his food. If Naruto was left to buy his own food, he would have died of hunger. Kyubi wanted to buy something before meeting up with his team this morning, but every clothing store he tried to go into kicked him out. After seeing the owner's angry look, he didn't even try to go into the store with the weights. Kyubi had to buy the things himself so that he wouldn't look suspicious, but no one would sell to him. Perhaps a henge, but no. Then they would think that whoever I ran into gave it to me. Kyubi thought about his activities this evening as he walked to the training field, where he was already an hour and a half late because the villagers were slow to give up the chase. Some of them clearly had ninja training at some point. Things were getting worse almost as soon as he took this body. He used to be the terrifying Kyubi no Kitsune, a demon so powerful that the strongest ninja ever gave his life to trap him. Now he knew that he couldn't use his power well enough to beat regular ninja, and even then, he could only do that for a minute or 2. After he got used to that, he became a ninja so he could keep pretending to be Naruto without being found out. When did Kyubi start to be afraid? Once he did that, he had no choice but to steal if he wanted to get stronger. He was now not only a sad person and a ninja from a village he had tried to destroy, but also a thief. And his short history of stealing had put him at the bottom of the social ladder. He was now a murderer. No one knew, but that was just by chance. He had heard two people talking about the missing Jounin. The ANBU had not only found the path to Mizuki's body, but they also knew that it was there. Only because there were wild dogs around did the ANBU stop their investigation. That was too close to call. Even though Kakashi told him not to, Kyubi had eaten breakfast. He had been planning to go shopping for a while, and he thought that after taking time to shop, he would be fine. He walked into the training field's open space. He saw Sasuke and Sakura, but no sign of Kakashi. He stopped and took a deep breath. Kyubi thought, at least I didn't lose my mind when I got this body. Even though he had a better sense of smell, he couldn't find Kakashi. Also, his sensitive ears didn't pick up anyone else but himself and the two genin. He went over to the two of them. Sakura yelled, "Baka, where were you? You were supposed to have been here an hour and a half ago." Kyubi was not at all scared. "I finally got this voice down. Is Kakashi here yet? To keep up, you really have to pay attention. I shouldn't say a lot. No, actually, but." Kyubi sat in the clearing by one of the posts. If Kakashi wasn't here an hour and a half after they were supposed to meet, he was either dead, busy with important work, or always late. If he didn't have a good reason, Kyubi would plan to be at every meeting Kakashi was going to be at least an hour and a half late. He just closed his eyes and leaned back against the post for now. He could tell that Sakura was watching him. He looked at his Genjutsu's chakra. It was the best he could do. He didn't have much darker eyes than Naruto. She couldn't have missed that, right? Kyubi scowled. She might have just been strange. Since he had nothing to do, he let himself fall asleep. Sakura stared at Naruto. Since the first time she met him, he had changed a lot. She remembered when he used to play jokes on people and was always smiling, laughing, and shouting that he was going to be Hokage. He always did what he wanted, no matter how many people made fun of him. Like wearing clothes that are bright orange. Sakura had no idea why Naruto liked the color orange so much. She didn't know much about Naruto, but she did know that the Hokage had always bought him food and clothes because he didn't have any parents. She didn't understand how he thought he could be a good ninja when his clothes were so bright. She asked her question out loud before she had even thought about it. "Naruto, why do you always wear orange?" Naruto didn't answer. When Sakura looked a little closer, she saw that he was sleeping. She remembered a time when he would have been thrilled to talk to Sakura-chan. She still thought about the times he had yelled at her about how orange was a great color, how ramen was the best food ever, and anything else he could think of. But over time, he was losing his temper less and less. She thought he was starting to make some sense. But he also started dozing off in class, and he talked to people less and less until it was rare to hear him speak. In fact, she could only remember him talking in the last year when he was in trouble or when she asked him a question. Even then, he spoke quietly and gave short answers. Sakura shook off the feeling that she was carrying a heavy load. At least Naruto no longer talked over her when she was talking to Sasuke-kun. Sasuke-kun, she realized that Naruto was a lot like Sasuke-kun now that she thought about it. Sasuke didn't sleep as much, though. Sakura thought that Naruto might have found a good person to look up to. And he was so handsome, too. Kakashi walked into the clearing 2 hours later than he was supposed to. The team was just like he had imagined it. Sasuke was brooding, Sakura was staring at Sasuke, and Naruto was sleeping. Could I have gotten a team that was even worse? I have a lone wolf, a fangirl, and a bum. Wonderful. When Sakura heard Kakashi was coming, she jumped to her feet. "What's wrong with you? You're 2 hours late." "Oh, I was coming here when I saw an old woman trying to cross the street." "Liar." When Sakura screamed, Kyubi woke up. Is she this loud all the time? He wondered. Since he was put on her team, he had only seen her twice, and both times she woke him up by shouting so loudly that even the dead could hear her. Kyubi got up when he saw that Kakashi had arrived and that everyone else was now standing. "I'm glad you're all here because we're going to have a survival test today." "But, Kakashi-sensei, we did a lot of those at the academy," Sakura complained. "But this one will be harder, and if you fail, you'll have to go back to the academy." "What?" Kakashi waited until the noise in his ears stopped. "Yes, don't be surprised. The last test you took showed how well you could use techniques. This test will show how well you can use them in a fight." He took out 2 bells on strings and put the ends of the strings into his belt. "Is to get a bell by noon by any means necessary. Those who get a bell will pass, and those who don't will be sent back to the academy." "But, sensei," Sakura said, "there are only 2 bells." "Yes, so at least one of you will be going back to the academy." Kakashi pulled out an alarm clock from who knows where and put it on one of the 3 posts in the clearing. "This clock will ring at noon, so start trying to get the bells now." Sasuke and Sakura both ran into the forest right away to hide. Kyubi didn't do anything but stand where he was and look at Kakashi. Kakashi is a jounin. We are genin. Barely. If I use my power, I might be able to get a bell. But there must be a trick to this. In theory, none of us should even be able to touch him. Not a single one. This is meant to help people work together. So why are only 2 bells there? Of course. That is to keep us from working as a team. Now I get it. But how do I get the other 2 people to join me? Kakashi waited for Naruto to go hide. But he didn't. He did nothing but stand there and look at him. What a strange kid. He might be too lazy or tired to hide. Whatever, it makes no difference. Kakashi took out Ika Paradise, the book he liked best. He spent some time reading. Isn't Naruto going to do anything? He's still staring at me. Kakashi turned his back on Naruto and read. The boy's eyes seemed to burn into the back of his head. When he turned around, Naruto was still looking. I'm not going to let a creepy genin scare me. What's going on with his eyes? I think they're doing something wrong. Kyubi was thinking when he suddenly realized Kakashi was looking at his eyes. Even though Kakashi was only 10 feet away, if he had seen the genjutsu, Kyubi ran into the forest to find the other genin. There's something wrong with his eyes, for sure. It's almost like a genjutsu. I don't even think Naruto can do genjutsu. How weird. Kakashi turned around when he felt something behind him and caught a kunai between his thumb and middle finger. What's up, Sasuke? Kyubi was able to find Sakura quickly because her red clothes were just as noticeable as his orange ones. He said in a whisper, "Hey, Sakura." Sakura spun to face him, holding a kunai. "Oh, it's just you," she said in a whisper. "Sakura, we're supposed to work as a team to get the bells. We need to work with Sasuke." But Kakashi-sensei said. Kyubi hissed, "Ignore what he said. That was just a way to hide the truth." Sakura had a moment to think. He's right, though. What was I thinking? They heard a noise coming from the back of the clearing. They nodded and crept back toward the clearing to see what was going on. Kakashi towered over Sasuke and smiled as Sasuke scowled at him. Kakashi was at least a foot taller than Sasuke, and Sasuke was buried up to his chin. Kakashi took out his book again and started reading again. He hadn't expected that to be so much fun. Even though it was clear that the boy was talented, that wasn't important in this exercise. Kyubi and Sakura saw Kakashi standing next to Sasuke's head. Just in time, Kyubi put his hand over Sakura's mouth to stop her from shouting Sasuke-kun and giving away their location. Sakura figured out why Kyubi did what he did after he gave him a dirty look. She was the smartest kunoichi in her class, so she came up with a plan to get Sasuke and attack Kakashi with the 2 of them. She told Kyubi the plan quickly in a whisper, and he made a few suggestions of his own while still trying to say as little as possible. Once they agreed on a plan, Kyubi nodded and crept to the spot they had chosen. Once Sakura was in place, he attacked. Kakashi was curious about what had happened to the 2 other genin. They might have chosen to leave. At any rate, just to be sure, he would wait until noon. He kept reading his book and laughed when he heard Sasuke try again to get out of the ground. Sakura ran towards Sasuke from the edge of the forest, calling out, "Sasuke-kun! Sasuke-kun! Are you okay?" Kakashi's eyes rolled. Had he expected that, or had he expected that he walked towards Sakura, who was working hard to get Sasuke out of the hole? Kakashi moved to the side and turned around when he felt someone behind him. Kakashi had just been standing where Naruto was. Kakashi smirked. The boy had probably planned to use Sakura's reaction too. Kakashi moved to the side to avoid Sakura's kunai, and then he moved again to avoid Naruto's. The eyes of Kakashi got bigger. Sakura just made up her anger, or did she just find a chance while she was digging? Kakashi moved back to the edge of the forest and looked at the 3 genin in the middle of the clearing. When Naruto and Sakura were done digging Sasuke out, they started to whisper to each other. Kakashi smiled. They might have gotten the part about working as a team, but they're still out in the open. Time to run. Just as a kunai flew by Kakashi from behind, he moved out of the way. He turned around to find out where it came from. When 3 genin started throwing kunai at him, he jumped out of the way. A kunai trap, perhaps. Kakashi dodged to the side to avoid a kunai thrown from the other side when his instinct suddenly told him to move. They set up how many traps, or one of them could be a bunshin, which would let the 3rd one throw kunai from the forest. Kakashi thought about opening his sharingan to find out for sure, but he didn't. They're nothing special. I can't treat them that badly. The 3 genin in the clearing started throwing a lot of kunai all at once, and at least twice as many started flying out of the forest as they were throwing. Kakashi moved around and made his way to the middle genin. Normal copies don't have any physical substance, so he knew that at least 2 of them were real. He couldn't find Sasuke, who he knew was real, though, because he couldn't dig up another copy of him. Naruto jumped up from where he was in the clearing and ran straight toward Kakashi. Kakashi smirked. This kid doesn't know what's coming. I'll just dodge to the side. And suddenly Kakashi realized that the genin weren't aiming for him anymore. Instead, they were throwing their kunai just around Naruto to keep Kakashi from dodging. When he looked back, he saw that the kunai behind him were the only ones that didn't block his path to Naruto. He couldn't get out of the way of those kunai because they were coming straight at him. Kakashi thought, Naruto is going to hate me for this. He grabbed Naruto by the arm, spun him around, and used him as a shield for the kunai behind him. Kakashi was very surprised when Naruto vanished in a cloud of smoke right before the kunai hit, letting 5 of them land in his chest. Kakashi didn't see Sasuke coming up behind him until it was too late. He was too shocked by Naruto's disappearance and in pain from having several kunai stuck in his body. He turned and blocked Sasuke's punch and kick. When he felt a slight tug on his belt and looked down, he saw that the bells were gone. Sakura laughed and threw a bell to Naruto, who had just left the woods. She knew by now that this was a team-building activity, so she wasn't worried that Sasuke would fail. Sasuke stopped attacking and just stood still. Kakashi stood there, amazed by what these 3 genin had done. You guys seem to have figured out the real purpose of this test, so I guess you pass. We'll meet here at 8 in 2 days. Please excuse me, I have to go see a doctor. With that, Kakashi disappeared in a puff of smoke. Sakura ran over to Sasuke. You did a great job, Sasuke. Want to go out to lunch with me to celebrate? No. Alright, Naruto, I guess we could. She turned around and saw that Naruto was nowhere to be found. What did he do? She ran as fast as she could to catch up with Sasuke, who had already started walking back to Konoha. Can I at least walk back with you, Sasuke? Whatever. Sakura giggled. Kyubi jumped from tree to tree to get back to the place where he usually trains. Team 7 passed the test, but Kyubi could tell that Kakashi wasn't giving it his all. The only thing that the Jounin had ever done was bury Sasuke. Kakashi had only used Taijutsu before that. I need to get stronger. I need to be able to protect myself from these people, because if I get caught. He stopped in front of the posts that seemed to be in every area when he got to the training area. I still have to buy those weights and that other stuff, but I can't buy anything. I need to figure out how. Kyubi started running fast toward the east side of the field. He would just have to run faster if he couldn't use weights yet. Naruto looked around. Even though it was dark, he could just barely make out the shape of a hall with doors. Naruto got up and wiped away the dirt that was on the floor. Wonderful. What do I do? Naruto took a look around. Even though he didn't know this place, something about it seemed familiar. Then he saw a light ahead of him. Or, more accurately, a dim orange glow. Is this place on fire? I don't get any smells. Naruto walked toward the light, which was coming from around a corner at one end of the hall. The other end was so far away that it was impossible to see in the dark. Naruto pushed himself against the wall and looked around the corner. There was a big room with a cage that was almost as big as the room. Naruto saw a big, glowing figure inside the cage. Only once, in an old history book, had he seen a picture of it. He had looked in the book when he was a bad kid, which was a long time ago. He only looked because it was in a part of the library that was not allowed. The picture had the words Kyubi no Kitsune written next to it. Naruto looked at the huge fox with 9 tails. It looked like it was busy with something. It looked up at the ceiling as if it could see through it. Chakra went all the way out of the cage and around another corner. Naruto took a step outside. The fox had no response. Naruto went around the corner after the chakra. When the chakra came to an end, it was in the seat of a big chair. Naruto went back to the room with the cage by walking there. The fox wasn't doing anything. Naruto looked at the top of the room. It didn't have anything on it. He looked at the fox again. It was still looking intently at the ceiling and paying no attention to him at all. Or it might not have seen him. Naruto took another look up. He tried to see through the ceiling. He had a strange feeling, like he was getting bigger than the place he was in. The room went away. He saw trees moving quickly by him. He could see that his hands were moving at his sides and hear that he was breathing hard. But he felt nothing. He wasn't trying to run. He tried to look down at his body, but his head wouldn't move. His body kept running until it reached a large tree. His hand reached out and touched the tree, and then his body turned and began running the other way. He could tell from the sound of his breathing that he should be dead tired. But he didn't feel tired. He could tell when he saw the trees move that he should feel a breeze. But he didn't. It was like something else was controlling his body. He tried to pull back into the place he had been before, and he felt a strange constriction, like he was being pushed into a box too small to fit him. Suddenly, he was back in the giant room with the cage. He looked at the fox demon, Kyubi. It still stared at the ceiling with the same intensity. Kyubi is controlling the body. But if I'm not in my body, where am I? Naruto looked past the ceiling again. His body was still running. What was he to do? He didn't mind watching life this way. In fact, it might be preferable to actually living it. If something or someone showed up, and he didn't want to listen to their hurtful remarks, he could go back to the strange room. This is going to be really boring if all Kyubi, at least I think it's Kyubi, does is run. Trees continued to rush by him. Naruto sighed. At least, he sighed as much as you can when you don't have a body. Anyway, Kyubi spun around, drawing a kunai. Someone was here, watching him. He had heard their breathing, but for some reason, he couldn't tell where it had come from. He sniffed the air. Nothing. He listened intently. Nothing. He couldn't sense anything, even with his enhanced senses. But a skilled ninja might be able to hide the signs of their presence. Why'd he stop all of a sudden? At the sound of the voice, Kyubi dodged to the side and turned to face the other way. No one was there. And again, he couldn't tell where the sound had come from. Who's there? He asked the air. Silence settled over the training area. Kyubi heard what sounded like a whistle and hurled a kunai at the sound. A small bird, skewered by the blade, fell to the ground, guilty only of trying to sing. Kyubi tensed his muscles, waiting for any hint of another presence. No one could stay silent forever. Naruto realized what was going on. He may not have been the brightest ninja, but he saw that every time he tried to make a sound, Kyubi reacted. Maybe Kyubi could hear him. He decided to test this theory. This is way better than dealing with the villagers. Naruto frowned, realizing that what he really wanted was to be friends with Kyubi. It may be better than no friends, but a demon. Man, my life sucks. Hello, Kyubi. Kyubi flinched. How could anyone have figured it out? He looked around wildly, but saw no one. Can't you figure it out? Doesn't my voice sound familiar? It did sound somewhat familiar, but Kyubi couldn't think of anyone. Who are you? He asked. Then it hit him. His voice is exactly the same as mine, meaning Naruto. In the flesh. Well, not really, but you get the picture. This could be useful, thought Kyubi. Naruto can help me to act convincingly human, unless he tries to take back control of the body. I have hardly any grip on my control at all, since I have to reach way out of the seal to get to the point of control. If he decides to take control, I will be trapped back there again. What can I say to convince him to leave the chair alone? Maybe, if you do realize I can hear all of that, right? You can hear my thoughts. Yes, then I guess all I can do is ask you to let me use your body. Yeah, so can I. Kyubi hoped for the impossible. Maybe this kid would go back into a coma or whatever. Maybe he would. Yeah, I like this arrangement better anyway. Did I hear you correctly? Kyubi could hardly believe that he could have such good luck. Did you just say what I think you said? Yes, I did. Everyone hates me, so I don't really want to go out there anymore. Besides, you haven't done anything too bad yet, and it's been how long have I been gone? 3 days. And before you ask, I can help you get your human act down, if you like. Not that I'm probably the best human to ask, but I can't really ask anyone else. Yeah, and Naruto, is there any way that I can buy things? I need to buy some weights and clothing that isn't orange. What's wrong with orange? What do you mean, what's wrong with orange? Any competent ninja would be practically blinded by it before I could sneak up on them. Oh, how did you act when you tried to buy the stuff? Like any other customer. I tried to walk in, and the owners freaked out and told me to go away, so I told them to shove off, and they decided that warranted attacking me. And, yeah, that won't work. If anything, you basically need to grovel and offer to pay extra. I've never actually bought anything but ramen, and I only bought that from Ikaraku. The owner there seemed to like me, so grovel. You expect the great demon, Kyubi no Kitsune, to grovel for clothing and hunks of heavy metal. Yeah, unless you want me to try it. I could control the body and do it for you. Kyubi considered that for a second. Would you be able to relinquish control of the body after doing that? I don't know. I don't really know how I got here in the first place. There's only one way to find out, though. Kyubi thought about that. Was he willing to risk his only chance at freedom to spare his pride? It's not worth it. I can't. Then Kyubi visualized himself groveling before filthy shopkeepers to be able to buy their goods at an inflated cost. Scratch that. We'll try it. It's a little after noon right now. Why don't we go now? You'll need to go sit in that chair to control the body. What are we going to do about money, Kyubi? I never had much, and certainly not enough to buy good weights and clothing. I've already got that taken care of. Just go sit in the chair before I start doubting my decision. Naruto returned to the room with the cage, which he now thought to be his mind. He walked around the corner to the chair. As he approached this time, the reddish-orange chakra pulled back. Naruto sat in the chair. Nothing happened. What is wrong? Why isn't anything happening? Then Naruto thought of something. He tried to see through the ceiling. He experienced the strange feeling of expansion as he returned to the real world. Naruto sat up, rubbing his head. When Kyubi had relinquished control, the body had fallen onto the ground and the head had hit a rock. Why am I thinking of my head as the head? Whatever, we need to work on that transition if we ever have to do that again, Kit. If I can let you control the body again. Don't remind me. Now get moving. I have to train this body to avoid getting killed by any stupid ninja. Where's the money you were talking about? It's under the mattress of your bed. And maybe you should buy several different levels of weights, so that we can increase the weight as our body becomes stronger. Naruto smiled slightly. Maybe he would have a friend after all, even if it was a demon. Naruto walked along as the sun rose in the morning. Wandering around Konoha now felt strange. Even though he was still as alive as he had ever been, he felt more at home in the dark hallways of his mind than he did out here. Normal behavior was hard, even more so after hearing that he had a demon fox with 9 tails sealed into him. Kyubi was kind enough to explain how everything went down, but he wouldn't say why he had attacked Konoha in the first place. Given what had happened to him recently, it was almost a miracle that he could act normal. Even more so because Kyubi was talking to him as he walked. As I was saying, Kit, we need several different weights of clothes and at least a few black ones. So, when we're on missions, we'll have a good chance of sneaking up on people. Yes, you have already told me all of this. Once Naruto learned how to talk to Kyubi from inside his mind, it wasn't hard for him to figure out how to do it while he was outside. And why do you say we? I think that's where I'll be spending most of my time. So, yes, but if we ever need to act like real people, you'll have to come out. So, you'll need to train, too, so that when we act, we won't be easy targets. We might have to switch places for a while in other situations as well. So the answer is we. Naruto walked around Konoha in search of a good place to buy clothes. He knew where they could buy the weights if they could persuade the owner to sell. Naruto walked toward a store that looked good. But then he remembered what Kyubi had done here the day before. He would have to buy the clothes somewhere else. He went inside when he saw another clothing store. The store's owner yelled from behind the counter, "Hey, what are you doing here, kid? Did I say you could come in?" This startled the people in line. "I'm sorry, sir. All I need to do is buy some clothes. I didn't mean to bother you, and I'm willing to pay more to make up for it." Kyubi watched Naruto apologize and beg from his cage as he did so. "It's good that I didn't say anything. No one would be able to talk to me like that." He kept watching as Naruto talked with the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper agreed to let Naruto shop if he paid twice as much for everything. When the kid finally started to look at the clothes, Kyubi started pointing out the ones they wanted to buy. There are 3 sets of these black pants, 2 black pairs of boots, 3 or 4 of these black shirts with long sleeves. Everything does need to be black, yes. I don't think we'll ever have to hide in something bright orange. No, I don't think they would be scared of orange. They'd just think you're an idiot. You should get 2 of those black leather gloves, 2 black vests too, and 3 of those black coverings for the heads. I can tell that they didn't look like masks. You must put them over your head, so only your eyes will show. So, you won't have to waste chakra on the jutsu I used to get the money. What jutsu? I'll tell you about it later. You have the nerve to say that I am a small thief. And while you're at it, get 2 black cloaks. No, they aren't very useful in a fight, but you might need them if it's wet or cold. What exactly do you mean? How could you say that I sound like your mother when you don't even know what she sounded like? Go buy the clothes already. I think we've got everything we need here. While Naruto bought the clothes, Kyubi kept quiet. The shopkeeper gave Naruto a mean look. But he wasn't going to pass up the money he could make by charging twice as much for the clothes. The clothes were put on Naruto's bed. Now he had to go buy some weights. Yesterday, at least, Kyubi hadn't tried to buy them. What does that mean, Kit? Naruto was about to laugh. He hadn't had any friends before, and Kyubi probably only helped because he was afraid of losing the body, but a friend is a friend. Naruto felt happier than he had in a very long time. As he walked down the road, he thought about his past. Everyone didn't like him. He really couldn't blame them, since they had lost so much to Kyubi. They just thought that he was Kyubi when it was sealed in him. He went into the shop of the blacksmith to buy some weights. Kyubi looked on as Naruto begged the blacksmith for help. He watched as the blacksmith finally agreed to make the weights for Naruto, but only if Naruto paid 3 times as much as usual. The smith told Naruto to come back the next day for the first set, and a week later for the rest. Naruto gave the money to the clerk and left the store. "Naruto, you didn't have to pay that much. They were already pricey enough. If I hadn't agreed to pay that much, he wouldn't have sold at all." Whatever. When they arrived back at Naruto's house, Naruto set the weights onto the bed. "I don't know if I can do this, but here goes nothing." Naruto focused on getting back to the room that was dark. His bedroom became blurry, and he felt like he was being crushed by gravity, but with no pain. When his vision cleared, he found himself in the dark room, still sitting on the strange throne. When he stood up, a massive orange-red chakra moved into the chair seat. He was back. Kyubi withdrew back into the cage and felt around the corner with his chakra. As soon as Naruto got up from his seat, Kyubi took over. He filled the seat with his chakra and looked beyond his prison into the world of mortals. He had returned. Kyubi was happy with the way his training was going. As soon as he got his first set of weights, he started using them, and now his practice sessions with himself and his shadow clones are showing the results. He had more weights at home, and it was time to move on to the next set. Already, Kyubi was about twice as fast as he had been before. Granted, it was because he spent almost all of his awake time doing techniques while running through the forest, and he only had to let his body rest for a few hours a day. The body's ability to hold chakra was getting better, but not as quickly as Kyubi would have liked. And he was learning about human ways from Naruto, who was so nice to the demon that it was almost sad. He must have been lonely, I guess. Kyubi walked toward the Hokage's office to meet with his team. Today, they were supposed to get a new mission. If everything goes well, it will be easy, like finding that stupid cat. Then I can get back to training. Before entering the office, he instinctively checked the genjutsu on his eyes. Still there, and everything was fine. Kyubi entered the office. Sakura yelled at him, "Naruto, you're an hour late. Don't you care at all?" Kyubi looked around. Why is she getting so worked up when Kakashi isn't even here yet? Females. About 15 minutes later, when the door opened, Kakashi came in slouching. "Sorry, guys, but an old lady needed help carrying some groceries, and..." "No, there wasn't. You lousy." Sakura looked at the Hokage, who was smiling and looking at her. "And sorry, Hokage-sama. No problem. Team 7, now that you're all here, I can give you your mission," the Sandaime said with a pointed look at Kakashi. "Due to a lack of requests for missions lately, you will be getting a C-ranked mission." Sasuke smiled. "Now I can test my skills against other ninja. Then I'll know how much more I need to train to kill Itachi." Sakura smiled, glad she didn't have to go get cats for her mission. Her inner Sakura went on and on about how she needed to impress Sasuke. Kyubi lost. "This probably means that the mission will take more than a few hours. I need to train. I need to be able to defend myself and stay alive." Sarutobi continued, "You are to escort a man, Tazuna, to Wave Country. You will be protecting him from bandits and highwaymen. Once you get there, you'll keep him safe until a project he's working on is done. While you are there, you will protect him from thieves and thugs. You can go back when his project is done or after a month has passed. Your meals will be taken care of by Tazuna. You will leave in the morning tomorrow." Dismissed. Team 7 waited for Tazuna by the gates. Even Kakashi was only 5 minutes late. Kyubi didn't like the mission. "I need to train. At least we only have to worry about bandits and such, but it takes away from my training time. At least I can work on my speed and endurance while we're out there." Kyubi touched the second set of weights to make sure they were secure. Naruto had told Kyubi that he could train his speed and endurance by acting hyper and running around, since no one on the team knew about the weights. He would look silly, but at least he would be able to train. He watched a man dressed in shabby clothes approach. The man was drinking from a bottle as he walked. He walked up to them, but instead of passing, he stopped. "Are you guys ready to go?" asked the man. "Yes," Kakashi said. "Let's go." Kyubi frowned. "We have to escort this guy. How on earth could he afford a C-ranked mission?" Kyubi followed behind Kakashi and the man who must be Tazuna. This was going to be a long mission. Kyubi ran in circles around the group. He ran into the forest and back out. He jumped over Kakashi and Sasuke. After an hour of this, Tazuna and the rest of Team 7 just ignored him. Sasuke thought that the last person must be excited about the mission. They walked along, Kakashi and Tazuna talking about the project Tazuna was working on, a giant bridge. They passed a puddle. Kyubi stopped. He smelled something. "What is that smell?" "It smells like there was a person, no, 2 people here just a few minutes ago. And I smell metal, like the stuff they use in kunai. Ninja, maybe we aren't the only people out on a mission." Kyubi ran to catch up with the group, splashing through the puddle in his hurry. 2 shapes rose silently from the puddle. The first one grabbed his head and muttered curses. Then, both of them followed Team 7 without making a sound. Kyubi was running around and around the group when he saw 2 figures coming up behind them. He ran to Kakashi and whispered, "2 behind," before continuing to run around Team 7 like nothing was wrong. Kakashi was happy to see that Naruto had seen the stalkers. Kakashi had seen the puddle that shouldn't have been there because it hadn't rained in a while, but he didn't know how many there were. "Maybe Naruto isn't as shallow as I thought." "Sasuke, aren't you happy to be going on a C-class mission?" Sakura asked. Sasuke said nothing. Sakura pouted, while her inner self yelled that true love would be able to get through anything. two cloaked men suddenly appeared on either side of Kakashi and wrapped spike chains around him. They both pulled, ripping the Jounin to pieces, and then they charged Tazuna and the two genin. Kyubi was running around in the forest. Sasuke drew a kunai for each hand and dropped into a crouch. The cloaked men flung their chains around the genin, hoping to catch them inside. Sakura grabbed Tazuna and got both of them out of the way, while Sasuke leapt straight at their assailants. The two men fought Sasuke for a while, dodging kunai and swinging their spike chains and gauntlets. They couldn't touch Sasuke, but neither could he touch them. Suddenly, Sasuke jumped back and quickly formed seals. He put his hand to his mouth and blew a large fireball at the cloaked men. When he stopped, all Sasuke could see was burned ground. Two men fell from above him and landed on either side of him with their chains ready. Sasuke got ready for the end. Then he saw a large group of Narutos come out of the forest from all directions. The men threw their chains out to stop the attack, but there were too many. Sasuke, seeing their distraction, stabbed them both in the back with his kunai. Then the men were knocked back into a large tree by flying punches by two Naruto clones. Before they could leave, they heard a chillingly cheerful voice say, "Did you just hurt Sasuke-kun?" Sakura cried and cried over the two men until Kakashi came out of the trees and said, "Enough, Sakura. Kakashi-sensei, you're alive." Sakura squealed. Of course, Sakura said, "You guys did great. Naruto, good job with the sneak attack. Sasuke, you took advantage of Naruto's attack very well. Sakura, you made them fall asleep for us. Everyone, good job." Tazuna, Kakashi said to the shy bridge builder, "You need to explain yourself." Kakashi sighed. Yesterday, after a few looks, Tazuna admitted that he knew there might be ninja after him, but that his village couldn't afford a Class B mission, so he had to lie. Kakashi agreed to go on the mission after Tazuna convinced him that they could leave a poor old man to fend for himself if they didn't want to go on the mission. Kakashi sighed again. It was bad enough that they had to be on the lookout for ninja, but did Naruto plan to run around like a squirrel on speed for the entire mission? To be sure, it could possibly prevent an ambush, but more likely, Naruto would be ambushed while he sprinted around in the woods. Then again, Kakashi didn't want Naruto to go back to running in circles around the group. Not only was it annoying, but Naruto kicked up dust so that there was always a cloud of dust around them. And it disturbed Tazuna, who thought that no normal kid should have that much energy. "Naruto," said boy rushed from the forest and stopped next to Kakashi. He fell into step with the Jounin, asking, "What is it, Kakashi-sensei?" "Naruto, I know this is boring and you may have too much energy, but you need to calm down. If we run into more ninja, we might need that energy." "But Kakashi-sensei." "Yes, but." "Just stop." Kyubi was pissed. Not only was he on an extra long mission where he might run into people who might be able to kill him, but he wasn't allowed to train either. "You sounded like a whiny child when you were talking back there." And his host, who seemed happier than Kyubi could remember, kept making sarcastic remarks. "I am a demon, not a human you can make fun of. If I had my body, I would rip you apart, leaving so little of you that you couldn't fill a jewelry box." Kyubi and Naruto had gotten used to each other, more or less. Naruto would offer advice on human things, and pointed out things that Kyubi may have overlooked. Kyubi had never learned how to read emotions from tones and expressions, and, though he saw little point in it, agreed to listen to whatever advice Naruto thought of from time to time. They were working on a system to work together in combat. Kyubi would pay attention to a single target, while Naruto would watch the surroundings from his vantage in his own mind. They had only tested it out once, during the short time they had engaged the Demon Brothers. And, for anyone who doesn't know, those were the two ninja from the last chapter. It seemed to work okay, but they would keep training if they ever got the chance. When there was nothing to do, which seemed to happen a lot on this mission, Naruto would tease Kyubi. Kyubi would respond with poison, which made Naruto laugh, so he would continue to tease Kyubi. Kyubi didn't really mind Naruto that much, and most of the time he only responded to protect his dignity as a powerful demon. "But you don't have a body, do you? You have to borrow mine. Step inside my cage, and then we'll see if you still have your annoying sense of humor." "Actually, I'm just fine from out here." "Get down." Kyubi squatted down low on the ground as a huge sword flew over him and stuck in a tree on the other side of the clearing. A man in light blue baggy pants, dark brown shoes, and wrapping around his hands and lower face jumped onto the sword. "Zabuza, demon of the mist," Kakashi said, though he didn't show any signs of worry on the outside. "Who is Zabuza?" asked the Genin and Tazuna. Sakura asked. "He's a ninja who went missing in the hidden mist. Watch out for Tazuna, you three. I'll handle Zabuza." "How noble. The great copy nin will protect his brats." Suddenly Zabuza appeared next to Tazuna. "Even though we've been training for a long time, We're still not fast enough. This whole time hasn't even been 2 weeks. Good grief. Try to keep them safe from this. Zabuza swung his sword, or tried to, but Kakashi was holding on to it. Sakura pulled Tazuna away, and Sasuke and Kyubi took positions around Kakashi and Zabuza. The genin were amazed by how hard the two were fighting. Zabuza kept swinging his huge sword like it was nothing, but Kakashi always dodged it like it was moving through molasses. Kakashi tried to hit Zabuza with kunai, but they were either blocked by the sword or wasted on a water clone. Neither could land a good blow on the other. Suddenly, Zabuza leapt onto a tree branch. I'll let you go this time, but that bridge will not be built. If you continue, I won't go so easy on you next time. Zabuza rushed into the nearby forest. The group arrived at Tazuna's house without further incident, late the next evening. They ate with Tazuna, his daughter, Tsunami, and, for a time, her son, Inari. Inari stormed off in the middle of the meal, declaring that they were all going to die. Sakura went to bed after Sasuke said he didn't want to go for a walk with her. Sasuke went to bed soon after. Kyubi went to his cot and listened to the sounds in the house. When he was sure that everyone was asleep, he snuck out of the house to train. Because he had missed out on training in the last 2 days, he decided to do things a little different, fighting shadow clones while sprinting through the forest. It would have to be taijutsu only, because the sound of techniques or the clang of kunai might have been heard back in the house. Kyubi trained until the sun came up over the horizon. Then he ran back home and pretended to sleep until Sasuke came to wake him up. Hey Dobe, get up. Today, we have to watch over Tazuna at the bridge. Kyubi sprinted around the bridge. Sasuke had, in vain, tried to convince him to lie in hiding and watch for the Zabuza. In the end, Sasuke took it upon himself to watch around the shore, leaving Naruto to guard the edge of the bridge. The two genin ate lunch together in silence and then went back to their posts. The fog started to gather around the bridge, but Sasuke didn't think anything of it until he heard a man laughing right behind him. Kakashi can't protect you now, brat. Naruto was sprinting around the edge of the bridge in the mist when he heard someone land beside him, and saw a dark shape keeping pace with him as he ran. He stopped and faced the figure. I don't want to hurt you, but Zabuza-san can't let this bridge be finished. Zabuza, the demon of the mist, was standing in front of Sasuke when he turned around. Kakashi was at Tazuna's house training with Sakura, and Naruto was on the other end of the bridge. Sasuke thought, I can't lose to him. I have to live so I can get revenge on my clan. If I want to beat my brother, I have to beat this guy. Zabuza formed a seal which Sasuke couldn't identify through the mist and vanished. Sasuke whirled around. Nothing. He looked behind him. Nothing. I can't let him catch me off guard, so I need to know where he is. But no matter where he looked, Sasuke could find no trace of the mist nin. This was going to be difficult. Kyubi looked at the strange boy. Or is it a girl? The nin just stared back. Neither of them moved. The nin, Haku, tensed his muscles. At any moment, the boy would either spring to attack or to run away. If the boy ran away, that was fine. But if he attacked, then, are you a boy or a girl? Everywhere he went, people had the nerve to ask him if he was really a man. He would show up and beat people up, but no one ever asked, how did you get so strong? Or where did you learn to do that? Instead, they would ask, are you really a man? Or are you a boy or a girl? He hated that. This kid wasn't getting away. Haku wasn't going to kill the boy, but he would make. Kyubi mentally smiled. The kid had been right. Of course I was right. I'm the human here. I would know. Kyubi ignored the voices in his head for now. He had distracted the nin with his innocent-sounding jab, and now he could attack. Kyubi lashed out with a spray of kunai. The nin, though distracted, dodged the projectiles at a speed Kyubi could barely see. Oh, that can't be good. Kyubi twisted around just in time to see the nin fling a handful of senbon in his direction from behind. Kyubi dodged them, but with considerably less grace than the mist nin had shown. Kyubi jumped at the nin, who almost lazily moved out of the way, and stuck several of the needles into his back. The demon blocked out the pain, and the voice of the annoying human in the back of his mind. Kyubi formed a familiar seal, and a dozen clones appeared. Immediately, they ran straight at the gender-impaired nin, each holding kunai in both hands. The nin fired senbon in a circle around himself, herself, dispelling all the clones before they could reach him, her. Kyubi, who hadn't attacked yet, frowned. This might be harder than I thought. Ignoring the voice in his head that was yelling about something, Kyubi called another dozen clones to the battlefield. These clones threw kunai from a distance, but Haku dodged them with eerie grace and quickly killed all of them. Kyubi realized that this opponent was fast. It seemed like the demon wasn't anywhere near where he needed to be in terms of speed. Naruto's voice didn't register in his mind until the nin charged at him and threw senbon. You fool, put down the weights. Sasuke panted for breath. Every time he thought he had gotten the upper hand, his target would dissolve into water. Just how many water clones could a guy make? Apparently a lot, thought Sasuke as he snatched kunai out of yet another melting clone. He had to salvage kunai from fallen clones and from the deck of the bridge, as he had run out a while ago. Sasuke had the distinct impression that Zabuza was playing with him. Sasuke barely avoided being cut in half by that huge sword. He stabbed his attacker in the back, and he wasn't surprised when it, too, turned into a puddle. Sasuke couldn't keep fighting like this for much longer. As if he had read Sasuke's mind, Zabuza attacked anew, with 4 images of himself converging on Sasuke's position, one from every side. Sasuke threw his remaining 3 kunai at 3 of the images, and leapt into the air, hoping to get out of the range of the swords. One image was struck in the shoulder, and splattered onto the deck, but the other 3 jumped after him. Sasuke pulled out his only remaining weapon, his Fuma Shuriken, and turned around, preparing to block the swords with it. Instead, another image, maybe the real Zabuza, came up behind him and hit Sasuke across the bridge with the flat of his blade. Sasuke landed hard and rolled to the small wall at the edge of the bridge. He couldn't move his legs, and he couldn't move his arms without excruciating pain shooting through his back. He had no idea where his Shuriken had landed. He could only watch as Zabuza walked toward him out of the mist, holding that massive sword on one shoulder. I had been waiting for your teacher to come. I was very excited about a rematch. I thought he would be interested in what we were doing here. But since it was clear that it didn't work, maybe your death will work where this fight was useless. Zabuza raised his sword, and Sasuke got ready for the end. Kyubi was kicked over the bridge because he didn't have time to react to Naruto's comment. How could I forget about the weights? Of course, I should be faster than this. Kyubi dropped his weights onto the ground by undoing the rope that held them on. He had specifically designed his weights so that he could take them all off by untying a single knot. That way, he could take them off in the middle of a fight. Like now, Kyubi suddenly realized that those weights were heavy. He felt like he needed to hold on to the ground to keep from floating away. He pulled out a kunai and ran at Haku. Kyubi's slash missed the Mist Nin by just a few inches, and the Mist Nin didn't do anything special to avoid it. Kyubi skimmed across the bridge as he ran after his opponent, who didn't have a gender. Haku stopped and turned around. Now that he was out of the boy's reach, he needed to make a plan. Haku's train of thought was interrupted by a fist crushing his mask into his face. Haku fell back several feet. Then he remembered what Zabuza-san had said. If your opponent is tough, kill him. Otherwise we'll have to fight him again. Don't be so soft that you endanger our safety. Kyubi saw the boy get up and form a strange seal, one that he did not recognize. Water from the bridge rose up and froze in long, flat sheets around him. Then he saw Haku jump into one of the mirror-like sheets of ice. Suddenly, every sheet around him showed an image of Haku. Kyubi grinned and threw a kunai at the mirror that Haku was in. It broke, but right away, more water rose up and made another sheet of ice with an image of Haku on it. Kyubi saw all of the images raise their hands full of senbon and throw the needles. Kyubi saw needles fly from seemingly every direction. He knew that there could only be one of the nin, and he could occasionally make out a faint blur that must have been the nin. But it was too much to think about at the moment. Kyubi covered his head as senbon rained down upon him. They kept coming and coming. Kyubi realized from the chill spreading from the many needles embedded in him that they were made out of ice, which the nin probably made from the water around them. And since they were out on the ocean right now, Kyubi started to feel tired, but he didn't feel exhausted. Instead, he felt a peaceful sleepiness. The needles hurt less, and the edges of his vision started to get darker. Kyubi wondered what was going on, but he didn't really care. He just wanted to sleep. Kyubi, you're going to die. Wake up. Oh, how nice. I guess that. What? Kyubi forced as much of his own chakra into Naruto's body as the body could take for the few minutes he would need it. The sudden release of so much energy made the concrete of the bridge ripple and crack around his feet. Senbon popped out of his skin, and all of his wounds healed without so much as a mark to show their former existence. The genjutsu over his eyes broke, revealing bloodshot eyes with slit pupils and red-orange irises. The whisker marks on his cheeks grew longer and thicker, giving the impression of long claw marks across his face. Fiery, red-orange chakra surrounded his body, making a vaguely fox-shaped shape. Over each hand were chakra claws. Haku could only stare as the blonde boy suddenly healed. He could only stand there as the boy charged, screaming incoherently. He could only fall as the ferocious thing ripped out his throat. And he could only scream silently as the boy began to eat him alive.
I will continue this story in next part. Till then, we weeb offline.